Here we have the Cosmic Book, issue number 1. It is the only issue. This is from March of 1986. It's from Ace Comics, which was a company that was only around from 1986 to 1987. And it is put out through Wandering Star Press. Let's take a look at the front and back cover. Here we can see the awesome artwork of a Mr. Pat Boyette, a writer-artist with a long career. This one-shot comic was a personal obsession of his. He packaged this production together, shopped it around to numerous publishers, and eventually was able to get it put out through Ace Comics. Now, this particular Ace Comics is not to be confused with an earlier comic series from David K. Publications called Ace Comics that ran from 1937 to 1949, or an early comic company called Ace Comics from 1941 to 1955, and a later Ace Comics company from 1995 to 1998. Now, this is its own Ace Comics. Okay, so Pat Boyette was born in 1923, and he spent most of his life in San Antonio, Texas. His first career was a radio broadcaster. He was drafted into World War II. He came out, he became a TV newscaster for 20 years. Then he became a low-budget filmmaker in the early 1960s. In 1966, he started working for Charlton Comics, where he co-created the Peacemaker, the famous character from DC Comics. And then he worked at Warren Publishing, painting magazine covers for Creepy and Eerie magazine, just like Frank Frazetta. The internet says he worked on a Bruce Lee comic strip, but I can't find any evidence of that. That would be awesome. He worked in comics until he was 75 years old. He was married for 54 years until his wife's death. He has a daughter named Melissa, and he died of esophagus cancer at 77 years old in the year 2000. So we start off with Encounter by Wallace Wood. This is a 2-page story. It is the final story ever created by the famous Wally Wood, a famous comic book artist who, among other things, gave Marvel Comics Daredevil his red costume. He actually committed suicide in 1981, 5 years before this comic was released, but this story was asked for and commissioned by Pat Boyette for eventual publication, and this is where it got its release. But the size is curious because it is not the size of comic pages. I wonder if it was intended for a magazine at the time. It's not much of a story. I mean, it's only 2 pages. It has a funny little twist ending. The artwork looks great. I would say mostly because of the coloring. Then we have Tenango's Valley. This is from Pat Boyette. This is another kind of a interstellar type of a story. So you've got Pat drawing, inking, coloring, writing, of course. It's just adventures on other worlds. Another little funny twist ending. Now we have Perts versus Experts. So what is a pert? Well, it's I guess it's not an expert. But this is a 2-page story by Alex Toth. He was a famous cartoonist. Among other things, he created Space Ghost, the Herculoids. He worked for Hanna-Barbera. He actually died at his drawing table a month before his 78th birthday. I don't really understand the story. The only thing of note to me is the interesting look of this design, this artwork. Apparently this is it says 1984. This is one of his stories that was reprinted multiple times, but this publication has it reprinted for the first time in color. And I think the colors are really cool because, it kind of makes this look like a photograph of a real-life little cartoon man. I don't know. It's pretty interesting. This character reminds me of artwork by Vaughn Baudet. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, so there is a 3rd page to this. It's just more, cosmic stuff, I guess, fitting with the theme of this comic. Now, here we have a comic by a guy named Mike Himes, who I am not able to find out any information from him on the internet, about him on the internet, other than this is his only publication. Mike Himes is the artist, and the colorist is a guy named Steve Weed. I don't understand what the story is at all. It's just weird. Space baboons, some guy in the Sahara, I think, on horseback. It looks, so this egg comes down from a spaceship. It's worshipped by these primitive baboons that become space baboons, and then a cityscape, a little like San Antonio, Texas town. Yeah, I guess you're getting closer to the end of the street. Not much. And there it ends. The ship, I guess, flying away, and the city is in ruins, and there's the space apes again. I don't know. Who knows? But then we have this one-page story called Mystery from Pat Boyette again. The art is cool. I really like how it's colored. I like the art style. I mean, I don't know if this is true. This is basically a skull was found with a bullet hole, even though it predates, guns. It's a mystery. Who was the time-traveling, gun-wielded rifleman? It's just a hole in a skull. And then we've got this great painting here by Pat Boyette. This, I guess, is his proposal for a story he would like to work on about pirates in future issues of the Cosmic Book. Of course, there were no other issues of the Cosmic Book, so this is all you get. I do like this, though. Makes me want to work on my Sunken Treasure comic. Now, this is a story by Fred Himes. I don't know if he's related to Mike Himes. Probably, but I guess this is my favorite comic in the book. It's this gangster in the 1930s, black and white. He finds a door with some color in it, opens it, and now he's in a fantasy land of color. All these alien races seem to be ruled by this 1890 style British soldier guy. Starts to learn about how this place is run. Then the aliens come to him with an offer that he doesn't really want to take up. Starts to get lonely, finds a human girl, they fall in love, she's killed, and he goes for help. Doesn't get it, so he takes the aliens up on their offer. Another little twist ending right there. Read it yourself. It's the best thing this book has to offer story-wise. Now, art-wise, a lot of great art in here. Like this, Of Gods and Bondage, also by Pat Boyette. Okay, I see I got something wrong here. I said Mike Himes' story was colored by Steve Weed, but it's actually Fred Himes' colors are by Steve Weed. Don't know who Steve Weed is either. This seems to be the only thing he worked on. But I can tell you a little bit about Fred Himes. Fred Himes was a Mexican writer and comic artist who also worked for Charlton Comics with Pat Boyette. He's also from San Antonio, Texas. He also died in the same year as Pat, in the year 2000. But he was 7 years younger than him, being born in 1930. He was also an animator of TV commercials. That's about it, though. I think this would have looked even 1,000% better if it had been printed in a magazine, a glossy magazine like that Battlestar Galactica magazine I showed in the last video. I think these colors would have really popped because nothing really stands out in this picture other than it looking cool, but it's kind of a drab, jumbled mess. But I think if it was printed on something better than this, this toilet paper, it would look great. The story, nothing to write home about. It's cool, though. I mean, it just looks good. But these anthology books, I don't know. You get these short little stories about nothing designed to have just a finite go-nowhere type of thing. Introduce your characters, do something with them, the end, never see them again. It's just so much work put into basically a nothing. And you don't feel like, I need to come back for what comes next, because there is nothing coming next. The idea of an anthology book is great. It's like, let's put a lot of ideas together. Let's get a bunch of our friends. Let's put, especially when you get a bunch of people to work on a couple pages a piece, you can really put together, package a comic a lot quicker that way and shop it around, which is exactly what they did. But for the reader, not all that interesting. At least it wasn't for me. So there you go, the Cosmic Book. Nice little one shot.